Hey guys, I'm really excited to talk about Toronto today. I've got a lot of thoughts, but I guess context is important first. If you're new here, hi, my name is Camden. I'm lucky enough to move to a new country every single month. That's what I do full time. I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. I'm normally making travel tip videos, preparing people to visit a city, but this is the Unfiltered series, and what you see is what you're going to get. It's going to be me talking unfiltered, my raw, honest thoughts. We're going to talk about things I love, things that I don't love about Toronto, just observations, the real stuff that I feel like the internet is so polarized, and we do a bad job as a species making space for conversation where like we can really learn and engage in a meaningful way. So this is my version of trying to push back on that flaw in our species. And I do so much learning through you guys, like through the comments. I'm going to ask lots of questions for locals and to people who have visited in the past, just so we can bounce ideas and share like in this experience. So I really appreciate how you guys always engage, and I guess we'll get into some of the meat and potatoes of the video. So for context, I stayed for a full month. It was a beautiful month up in September, and we were in the College Bathurst area of the city for locals. And this wasn't my first time in Toronto. I want to start with something that I perceived differently during my first visit versus this last visit. I've been twice in total. The first time I visited was for a very short window, and I was amazed by the public transit. Coming from the US, I had just never seen systems that were so clean, efficient. I was like, wow, this is incredible. You probably know where I'm going with this. One of the things that, again, I just have a different perspective of now that I've had the opportunity to go and travel through Europe and Asia and so many places that are really leading the charge in terms of public transit, is I'm recognizing the strain that your system is under. And I'm recognizing how the strain on that public transit system is affecting me as a visitor, and I think it affects other visitors as well. And I'm curious to know how it affects you all as locals. So if you're unfamiliar with Toronto's system, of course you have metros that are underground. Toronto mainly, yes, they have the metro, but the bulk of the network is above ground. It's we call the streetcars. So those cute little red things that everybody thinks of when you think Toronto, and they're wonderful. But they quite literally share the streets with cars. They don't have their own lanes. A couple places they do, but most of the time they're truly sharing the space with cars. And because the population has grown and we just have more people, there's a lot of traffic. So that means when traffic is happening, the streetcars, the transit is affected too. And typically public transit serves one of two purposes: get people somewhere faster and cheaper. And it's effective in terms of getting somewhere cheaper, but in terms of faster, I found myself not wanting to use the system as much because it was almost always quicker to bike. A lot of the times, depending on the area of town you were in, it was almost faster to walk, or the difference was negligible. Like it made more sense. I was like, hey, I'd rather experience walking the streets, add 5 minutes to my journey rather than sit in traffic in a streetcar for the time. So I'm curious for locals, how much has that changed over the last, let's just say like decade, in terms of the strain on the system? And I know you guys are trying to fix it, and I know it's just a challenging, there's not much you can do. I know it's a tough challenge, but also, how do you view your public transit system, and when do you use it most? I imagine that as the winter sets in, more people use it just to avoid the elements. And maybe as a visitor, I would have done that too had I visited in the winter. So I'm curious if that rings true for you, and I'm curious if you have hope. Like, and when I say hope, do you have real hope that the transit system is fixable, that there will be a solution met that will change kind of how you guys view it and how others are viewing it as well? Because I don't mean it as a huge negative, but it's clear that it impacts people, and it's obviously a part of the dialogue on your city. And I recognize nobody's necessarily at fault. It's just a challenge that you guys are facing. So I'm curious to know from locals' perspectives, where am I correct, and where am I off, and kind of where do you guys see it going? Um, I'll switch. We'll come back to like a negative thing that I didn't love as much, but I want to talk about a couple things I really did love. One is just the culture, and I think you can run in a couple different directions with the culture. One would be food. I'm somebody who experiences the world through food, and it's one of my favorite ways to learn about cultures. And it's so clear that this city has so much diversity, and with that, so much food that is so good, right? Yes, you have the fine dining, but you have good street food and kind of everything in between. Just so much there. And I'm curious if you almost see that as, well, yes, it's a beautiful part of the culture. I never want less options. What I found was the way the city is laid out. This is a neighborhood city. It's not, hey, everything is a part of one. It's almost as if each neighborhood is a distinct area, its own culture, its own personality, charm, quirks. And because of the transit, sometimes it feels like you stay in the area that is yours because everything is available to you, right? You have, it's very rare that you're needing to cut across town to access something. You probably can find it in your own little neighborhood. So as somebody who, like, again, my job is going out and experiencing and finding the different areas of town, it was so wonderful and just charming to explore the city because it was always something new. There was always something to see. I was constantly caught off guard. I was overwhelmed with choices, and I loved that. I'm curious from a local perspective, how often do you leave your little neighborhood or the couple surrounding? Like, how often are you cutting straight across town? And how do you feel like the transit challenges, I guess, impact that decision? Does it play any role? I found that to be just an interesting cultural thing that I was thinking about. Another thing with the culture, obviously, is entertainment. There's no shortage of things to do, and there's just so much to see everywhere. It's Class A city, right? Like, you guys just have it all, which is wonderful. One of the things culturally that I really like, not just about Toronto, but the country as a whole, is there's a clear commitment to education, which is not to be said about all countries, especially at this point in time. The way you guys integrate universities into your cities is outstanding and, like, unlike anything that I've seen anywhere in the world. And I've had the privilege to spend a month in Montreal and Vancouver, and, Quebec City. And you guys always seem to do such a good job, not just promoting education, making sure that it's something to pride yourself on, which, yes, props to you for getting that. But also, it feels like the way that the cities are designed and the way that the integration comes together. We'll use Toronto as the example, since obviously that's the city we're talking about. University of Toronto is so close to downtown that it feels like you have students rubbing shoulders with, the businessmen and businesswomen, right? The people who are wearing suits are sharing a lot of similar streets as the college kids. There's overlap. And when there's overlap, I feel like there's more space for collaboration and understanding across generations. And I feel like, I could be wrong, so correct me if you feel like I'm off base here, but I felt that come through. It felt like there was true community and that there wasn't a huge divide between generations in the same way that I see in other countries, and other cities. It felt like there was cohesion there, and it was beautiful. So I'm curious to hear if you think that is accurate, and if you think I'm off base there. So I love that part of the culture. Jump back to something that I didn't love as much, and this is not a your city specific issue. Obviously, every city deals with this to some extent. We don't shy away from topics here. Homelessness, is a challenge here, and drug abuse, obviously, a challenge. It's always so sad seeing it play out in the ways that it does. What I will say is, I know it feels really challenging for the city right now, and I get that. I hope that this provides you with a bit of hope. As somebody who has seen these same problems across the world, I'm hopeful for your guys' approach. The way in which the community engages with the community that is experiencing homelessness and dealing with addiction seems much healthier, and it creates a different environment. I recognize that as somebody who's always privileged and has had a home, it can be uncomfortable, especially those first few times if you're not used to it, engaging with people who are not sharing those same experiences. Some cities, you have populations that are shunned. Other populations you have, or cities, you have populations that are embraced a bit more. And I feel like Toronto, it's more of that embrace. While I recognize the discomfort and the sadness and all the emotions that come with acknowledging the reality of the some of these situations, it felt far safer than what a lot of other countries are feeling like right now. I never felt I was in danger. It felt like there was always a safety officer or somebody who is literally, placed there to engage with, the people who are going through it and struggling. I felt like there were more resources, and I know that it's a challenge. I know that there are a lot of different opinions, but I hope you recognize that from my perspective, take it for what it's worth. I'm hopeful for you guys, and I hope that helps guide everybody through that situation. I don't think from a tourism perspective, if you're somebody who's watching this trying to figure out should you go to Toronto, don't let the challenges that the city and so many others are facing deter you from visiting. It really is a special place, and I don't think you have anything really to worry about. Not unlike any other city anywhere in the world. So I hope that makes sense. And if you're a local and you can find a way to have dialogue that is meaningful and useful, I'm happy to hear it and would love it. But I wanted to share that perspective. Couple other notes that I have. I feel like the people, and maybe this is because of that cohesion, that rubbing of shoulders with, everybody, whether it's, people coming from different cultures and, different age groups and different education levels and whatnot. I felt like there's this just Canada nice, culture, but that was special in Toronto. It felt like a place that out of all of the cities in Canada that I've had the opportunity to visit, it felt like this is the most business centric city, while at the same time that creates that fast pace people are looking to accomplish, to achieve. And there was the rush, but at the same time, everybody's still holding the door for everybody, right? It's like, hey, we're setting out, we're looking to accomplish, but that doesn't come at the expense of people. That doesn't come at the expense of recognizing that, hey, well, yes, I have things that I'm doing. No reason for me not to hold the door if I have the ability to hold the door, right? So many of you held the door for me. I tried holding the door for as many people as I can. I appreciate that about the culture. I don't know how you guys are managing to get everybody to do that. But it does seem like there's true community and cohesion there. So I wanted to give you guys props on that. And also tell me if you feel like I'm off base there. Another thing is just art. The city has so much art, right? You guys have world-class museums, beautiful street art, graffiti, like everywhere. It's so beautiful to see. And I think a lot of visitors miss a lot of the best parts of your city. I think a lot of visitors get sucked in that central district, that downtown where all the skyscrapers are, and they don't get the opportunity to explore the neighborhoods, the pockets where the locals are living. Not to say that there aren't people living downtown. Of course there are, but the broader sense of Toronto. It's such a big city, and even bigger if you consider the greater Toronto, area. And I just enjoyed so much getting to be a part of it and observing how you all live and what you value and embrace. And it's just a special place. I'm curious for other people who visit, not the locals, how well do you think you as a visitor are doing to get out and seeing those other areas of town as opposed to just the CN Tower and the aquarium and the downtown areas? And for locals, what areas of town do you think visitors should spend more time in outside of downtown? And I'm not asking you to out yourself of what's your favorite, but what do you think as somebody who is coming to a place to learn and is genuinely curious about your culture? Which areas of town, what parts of your culture do you feel like are uniquely you or unique to Toronto that people should experience, that we can all take a piece away of and appreciate? And I know that's always a challenging question to ask, because if I were to make a recommendation of a certain area, given the fact that our species for some reason operates on this whole like influence, thing, there might be a lot of people who show up to a neighborhood if I say it. It's part of why I like doing it in this style is I get to read through the comments and learn through you guys, but we're not sending the masses to a specific neighborhood or pocket, because I recognize the downsides that can cause for, communities in Toronto and communities around the world. So I recognize it's a slippery slope. So if you'll humor me in a way that you think won't have a negative impact, I'd love to hear it. I have a couple other notes. I guess I don't. I guess those are my notes. So if you want to see my actual tips video, if you're a first timer, feel free to watch this video right here. And for anybody else who has any thoughts or takeaways of what you feel like Toronto should be, or what we should all take away from it, I'd love to know. But truly only mostly positive things to say for all you locals. You have a special city, and I look forward to the next time I have the opportunity to spend an extended time in your home. So thank you, and thanks for watching.